Hello everyone, I am Demented Kirby and welcome to my channel, the Commander Tavern. The Commander Tavern is a channel dedicated to my favorite Magic the Gathering format. The Brewery is a series on this channel showcasing my spicy brews and other deck techs. On this episode of the Brewery, I will be discussing my take on a new commander from Theros Beyond Death, Siona, Captain of the Pyleas. If you like this deck or any of the cards I'll be mentioning throughout the video, please consider using my TCG Player affiliate link when purchasing those cards. You can find that link down in the description. It'll really help out the channel. Other ways you can help support the channel is with my Patreon. Patrons get early access to scheduled videos on YouTube, and higher tier patrons get access to the VIP section of my Discord server as well. You can find a link to that down in the description too. Before continuing, I want to take a moment and thank everyone who expressed their support for me during this week I've had due to the seemingly incessant earthquakes on the island. Your support was much appreciated. At least now that I recently recovered power and internet, I was able to get back to my channel. So let's get back to it. Siona is a 2/2 human soldier for 1 generic, 1 green, and 1 white. She has 2 triggered abilities. The second one triggers whenever an aura you control becomes attached to a creature you control. When that happens, you create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Naturally, this goes infinite with Shielded by Faith. The way this works is that when the aura enters the battlefield attached to a creature you control, Siona triggers, creating a soldier token. This triggers the aura. If you attach it to the newly created soldier token, Siona triggers again, creating another soldier token. In turn, this triggers the aura. Since it's a You May ability, you can stop whenever you want to. If that weren't enough, Siona's first triggered ability triggers whenever she enters the battlefield. When she does, you look at the top 7 cards of your library and may reveal an aura card from among them. If you do, you put it into your hand. You then put whatever you didn't reveal at the bottom of your library in a random order. This means that she also has a built-in way to dig through your library for this aura, and this is the backbone of the deck, taking as much advantage of this 2-card infinite combo as possible. This makes for a pretty consistent and streamlined strategy for this straightforward deck, so this episode's going to be short and sweet. One way of doing so is blinking Siona. Each time we blink Siona, she'll once more dig through the top 7 cards of our library when she returns to the battlefield. This is why the deck is running Acrobatic Maneuver, Cloud Shift, and Justiciar's Portal. These are cheap to cast and return Siona to the battlefield after resolving and not at the end of the turn. Acrobatic Maneuver might be a bit costly, but it does replace itself, which justifies the casting cost. Ephemerate is an upgraded Cloud Shift because it costs the same and has Rebound. This means that you get its effect twice, one when you cast it and the second time at the beginning of your next upkeep. What's great about these instances is that you can use them at the end of the turn before yours in case you don't have the mana left over to cast Shielded by Faith if you found it. You can also use them to protect Siona from targeted removal in case of emergencies. Flicker, the namesake card for this effect, works similarly to the aforementioned spells but only at sorcery speed. However, the best cards for blinking Siona are Flicker Form and Eldrazi Displacer. Of these, the best one is the Displacer, since you can activate it at instant speed and Siona will return to the battlefield in the same instance. However, it does require colorless mana to activate, which is only slightly uncomfortable for this deck. Flicker Form is amazing since it's an aura, meaning that Siona can also get it into your hand when using her ability. The only downside to this card is that it returns Siona back to the battlefield at the end of the end step and not after resolution. The last card for this use is Eerie Interlude. The best part of this spell is that it can blink all of your creatures. Sure, they return at the end of the turn, but at least you can save your creatures from a board wipe this way. Speaking of board wipes, Teferi's Protection is included in the deck as a way to ultimately protect our board state. Teferi's Protection even protects our tokens from an overloaded Cyclonic Rift. On the topic of protection of our board state, I'm also running Destiny Spinner, Greater Auramancy, and Sterling Grove. Destiny Spinner makes it so that our creatures and enchantments can be countered, in particular Siona and Shielded by Faith. When Greater Auramancy and Sterling Grove are combined, that means that none of our enchantments can be targeted by anything, including themselves. Sterling Grove has the added bonus of being an enchantment tutor. We can pay 1 and sacrifice it in order to search our library for any enchantment and place it on top of our library. Additionally, Greater Auramancy grants Shroud to enchanted creatures we control. Speaking of which, Aspect of Mongoose straight up gives Shroud to the creature it's enchanting. Not only that, but it returns to our hand if it were to go to the graveyard from the battlefield. Besides Siona and Sterling Grove, the deck does have backup ways of tutoring for Shielded by Faith. Heliod's Pilgrim tutors for an aura when it enters the battlefield. Being on a body is great because it provides a chump blocker in a pinch and also a body to attach Shielded by Faith to if we have Siona already enchanted with Aspect of Mongoose. Idyllic Tutor and Open the Armory can also be used to search for Shielded by Faith and put it to your hand. However, as good as these are, they're not as good as Enlightened Tutor. Enlightened Tutor only costs 1 white to cast and it's an instant. It might put the enchantment on top of your library, but if cast at the end of the turn before yours, you're practically putting the enchantment in your hand. Oh, and it could also tutor for artifacts, but we'll discuss why that's important later on. Calyx Destiny's Hand's first ability has an effect similar to Siona's, however you're only limited to the first 4 cards of your library. His second ability turns an enchantment you control into a more restrictive Oblivion Ring. His final ability is essentially a replenish, which is also included in the deck. In case anyone wipes the board and all your enchantments are gone, you can recover them all thanks to these effects. You can also recover enchantments with Hall of Helios Generosity. You could activate this at the end of the turn before yours in order to maximize its efficiency. It can also tap for mana without entering the battlefield untapped, which is a bonus, especially since Eldrazi Displacer needs colorless mana to function. Elixir of Immortality is also useful in case of emergencies. It fills your library again, but since Siona digs 7 cards deep, it won't be so detrimental. It also gains us life, which we'll soon see is key to this deck. On the topic of digging through the library, the deck includes cards that synergize with what the deck's doing in order to draw cards. Satyr Enchanter and Argothian Enchantress both draw us cards whenever we cast an enchantment. 28% of the spells in the deck are enchantments, so they'll be able to draw us a card every now and again for free. Oran Frostfang turns our creatures into potential saboteurs that can draw us cards. Even if the depending player were to block any of them, they'll have Death Touch, so at the very least we'll be trading against a bigger creature. Guardian Project works in the same way as the previously mentioned Enchanter and Enchantress, but when a non-token creature enters the battlefield under our control without having to invest in mana. It's an enchantment which is great for the deck. Also, when we're blinking creatures, it'll draw us cards when they return to the battlefield. Another enchantment that draws us cards is Sylvan Library. Although it costs us 4 life beyond the first card we draw, we still have the potential to draw 3 cards. The deck is capable of gaining tons of life thanks to Soul Attendants, Soul Warden, and its plane-shifted counterpart Essence Warden. Each of these creatures only costs 1 mana and they gain you 1 life whenever any creature enters the battlefield. These creatures are included because the titular 2-card combo produces infinite creature tokens, which will in turn gain you infinite life with any of these creatures on the battlefield. You can also achieve the same effect with Adani's Welcome. We can also take advantage of all this life gain with Archangel of Thune. Whenever we gain life, we put a +1/+1 counter on all of our creatures. It's safe to say that the amount of life gain triggers will definitely make an army worth swinging in with. However, the main reason we want to gain life with the titular combo is to win with Aetherflux Reservoir. With infinite life, we can end the game thanks to this artifact, an artifact that can be searched up with the previously mentioned Enlightened Tutor. That way you can win the game the moment you assemble the combo. You can also win the game by straight up overwhelming your opponents with the created tokens. Concordant Crossroads and Crashing Drawbridge can give haste to all of your creatures. Giving haste to infinitely many 1/1 soldier tokens equates to victory. Granted, this can all still be disrupted with fog effects or a mass bounce amongst other things. But then again, the decks running Conqueror's Flail, Dosan the Falling Leaf, and City of Solitude for precisely that, to not have our game-ending turn interrupted. Fortunately, we can tutor for the Flail with Open the Armory or Enlightened Tutor if we already have Shielded by Faith in hand. Besides ways of protecting our board, the deck also runs ways of disrupting enemy boards. Generous Gift, Beast Within, and Scour from Existence are a given since they can get rid of anything at instant speed. Scour from Existence might be a bit expensive at 7 mana, but the deck does have ways to generate mana fairly quickly, but we'll get into that soon enough. Banishing Light and Oblivion Ring are both enchantments that can temporarily exile non-land permanents, which is great synergy for the deck. Our Shards is another great enchantment in the deck since it turns our creatures into disenchants. This helps get rid of any pillow forts or other obstacles that can impede our victory. Unfortunately, Kenrith's Transformation, Song of the Dryads, and Darksteel Mutation won't trigger Siona since they won't be attached to our own creatures, but at least she can grab them when digging through the deck with her ability. These auras are great since they're basically commander removal. Kenrith's Transformation isn't as good as the Song or Mutation, but at least it cantrips when it enters the battlefield. In order to thin out the deck of lands so that Siona can be more effective, the deck's running plenty of ramp spells. Farseek, 3 Visits, and Nature's Lore each cost 2 mana and can ramp for any dual type land as well as a basic land. Skyshroud Claim, Hunting Wilds, and Ranger's Path cost twice as much, but that's because they ramp for twice as much. Unlike these spells that put lands straight onto the battlefield, Land Tax puts basic lands into your hand. This is still an amazing card since you can drop this turn 1 and it's an enchantment, so it synergizes with the deck. Besides ramp spells, the deck is also running mana dorks like Elvish Mystic, Llanowar Elves, and Fyndhorn Elves. These elves are great turn 1 drops, but they can also trigger Guardian Project later on, so they're not dead draws. Avancyn's Pilgrim and Birds of Paradise are also amazing 1-drop mana dorks, with the birds obviously being the best one of all. Not to be outdone, Freyalise Llanowar's Fury can also create a mana dork every turn. However, she can also disenchant by removing 2 loyalty counters. Also, her ultimate is great in the deck since she provides card draw if you have enough green creatures around. In order to diversify mana sources, the deck is also running Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, and Mana Vault. Although the average CMC of the deck is fairly low, in any case these rocks are also important to activate Eldrazi Displacer, so not only can they help speed up the deck, but they can help in blinking Siona with the Displacer. The deck is also thinned of lands thanks to the 8 fetches in the deck, which are these present. Not only can these help fix mana, but they can also make Siona dig through less lands each time she activates her ability. Speaking of which, the rest of the deck is just lands. The deck's running Temple Garden, Savannah, Sunpetal Grove, Horizon Canopy, Brushland, City of Brass, Mana Confluence, and Command Tower in order to fix mana. Again, keep in mind that you do not need to run Savannah, the fetch lands, or Mana Crypt to make the deck work. The deck will still run well without them if you're on a budget or started playing Magic after these cards were much cheaper. Rounding out the lands are Ancient Tomb, Temple of the False God, and 9 of each basic land. This brew is just an idea of how to build around Siona, Captain of the Pyleas. Since the deck revolves around a 2-card combo, it might seem like a glass cannon, but remember that it does have plenty of ways to disrupt opponents as well as protect said combo. It's also very consistent if you don't mind a deck with a very linear and streamlined mode of piloting. If so, then this deck is a lot of fun to pilot and play. If you're interested in the deck list of this spicy brew of mine, you can find a link to it down in the description. I would like to thank all my patrons for supporting me, and a quick shout out to all my higher tier patrons, the brewers, for their patronage. I'd also like to thank anyone using my TCG Player affiliate link. That also helps out the channel. Again, I want to thank everyone who supported me during these trying times. And to everyone, thanks for watching this episode of The Brewery on the Commander Tavern. I am Demented Kirby, and happy brewing.